Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. It's a good day for Rhode Island. The legislation that we will be signing into law shortly represents an important and long overdue step towards ending gun violence and making our communities safer. I want to thank state leaders, lawmakers, and advocates who made this happen. We know it takes a lot of hard work, a great deal of persistence, and today that persistence is paying off. We've said many times that putting an end to gun violence will take a team effort, and today's signing is an example of what happens when we work together. I want to recognize all the general officers that are here today, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, our Treasurer, Attorney General. Your support in this legislation helped get it over the finish line. The bill's sponsors, Senate President, Majority Whip, Catherine Kazarian, Representative Jason Knight, Senator Joshua Miller, thank you for your unwavering commitment to addressing gun violence issues. I also want to give a special recognition and shout out to Senator Harold Metz, who is here today. He was a longtime champion of school safety legislation in the Senate, and it's fitting that this bill has been named in his honor. And of course, the room is filled with some of the most dedicated advocates that I've ever met. Thank you to Moms Demand, the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence, Everytown, and everyone else who has fought hard for this progress. Let's give them a round of applause, too, please. Every person in every city and town, all 39 cities and towns, I think we got most of the flags in the back now. I think we're absent 5 of them. We're going to have a big celebration when we get all 39 cities and towns flags in this stateroom. But every city and town deserves to feel, and everyone that lives in those communities deserves to feel safe in their homes, in their schools, and in their communities. And we can achieve that with good common sense gun safety legislation. And that is what we're here today to sign. It makes sense to create laws that keeps guns out of the hands of people who cannot and should not possess one. It makes sense to create laws that bans guns on school property and on school buses. I want to thank everyone who helped put these ideas into action. While we are here to mark the passage of this legislation, we know that there's still more work to be done. All our statewide constitutional officers came together to support a package of common sense reforms. These bills are the first 2 steps. I hope that in the next session, the General Assembly will act on additional legislation to continue to move this issue forward, and we must do everything we can to end gun violence and make our communities safer, a safe place to live, to work, to visit, and these pieces of legislation help us move us closer to getting there. So, thank you so much for being here. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos to the podium.
Good morning. I'm very happy to join my colleagues in government today to see Governor McKee sign these bills into law. It's often said that there is not one solution for gun violence. That is true. Gun violence is a complicated and difficult problem to solve. Yet we know that strong and sensible gun laws help save lives. As public officials, our top priority is to ensure that all Rhode Islanders are safe and can live without fear of falling victims to gun violence. I want to thank Attorney General Nerona, Speaker Shikashi, Senate President Ruggiero, House Majority Whip Casaria, Senator Miller, Representative Knight, and of course, former Senator Metz, for the leadership in getting these bills to the governor's desk and to be signed today. Thank you for your leadership. Especially, I'm very moved to be here with Senator Metz, and we kind of call each other about what to wear today. We continue to hear news, like last night, of gun violence and the toll that is taken in our community. This bill makes a big step forward in making sure that we have a safer community. All of them are good bills, but the one that I'm the most excited about is the ban on destroyed purchases, because I believe that's how the guns are getting in our community. So again, I just want to thank the leadership for making this happen. And with that, I will be introducing the Senate President, Dominic Ruggiero.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate your presence here. And I want to thank everyone for coming here today, because I think these are two important issues. And Governor, I want to thank you for your support, your tireless support of these issues. It's been the intention of the Senate to keep firearms out of the hands of those individuals who might harm others or help themselves. We also strive to make sure that everyone's rights were protected under the Second Amendment. We have had some guiding principles over the years in the Senate, and we've been able to pass such legislation as the red flag law, removing firearms from domestic abusers, mental health background checks, and banning untraceable 3D and ghost guns. And I want to thank my colleague who's here today, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, because she has been on the forefront of most of these issues since her time here in the Senate. The School Safety Act will keep firearms out of a place where they clearly don't belong, and that's namely schools. People with concealed weapons carry permits, and they don't have to notify anyone. They don't have to notify the police. They don't have to notify school officials. Only 4 states allow this. Simply put, guns do not belong on school premises. Period, exclamation point. There are many people who have worked on this legislation over the years, and I'm not one of them. Senator Harold Metz has introduced this 5 or 6 times that I know of. It's passed the Senate, and it's met an untimely fate in the House. However, I believe that this year, with the Speaker's support and the support of a number of other people in the House, I'm glad that they were able to pass the legislation, and I want to give he and his leadership team a lot of credit. And Chris Blazewski, the House Majority Leader, is here today, along with a number of other people. And I want to thank Catherine Kazarian for picking up the mantle and sponsoring this legislation as the Majority Whip in the House. And we finally got it passed. And it's probably because of her influence that happened. So, Katie, I want to thank you very much for your hard work on this issue. And I certainly want to thank the Speaker, because this has kind of changed the tone of what goes on up here. And I want to recognize a number of other people who have been involved. The Attorney General has been absolutely tireless. Attorney General Nerona has done a great job on this issue and a number of other issues that are gun-related. And I'm extremely pleased to acknowledge the strong leadership of a person who's no longer a Senate but is here today, and that is Harold Metz. He has been a longtime champion of the School Safety Act, among other safety measures. As a former Providence administrator, Senator Metz knows all too well what constitutes a safe and positive learning environment, and guns are not part of it. Harold, I want to thank you for your commitment and for your support to ensure the safety of all students in Rhode Island, and I'd like you to come up here and say a couple words. Please join me in welcoming Harold Metz.
Yes, good morning, and certainly I want to thank all the elected officials and the government leaders that are here present today, and a special thanks to the mothers. You were my inspiration. So I want to say good morning, and to be aware that many hands makes a burden light. So for me, the state motto of hope was reinvigorated with the passage of these two pieces of legislation. And I thank God and all that were involved in bringing it to fruition. The air was cleared. We navigated through a cloud of differences and were able to pass this common sense legislation that benefits us all. All too often in the past, and even now, the wall goes up before we listen to one another. And I'm so thankful that people sat down, and the leadership always says to us, get the parties together, see if you can come up with a compromise. But the key is people have to listen to one another. Don't put the wall up so fast. Listen and see where the areas where you agree, and then start there. Find out where you agree and work on that instead of fighting over the differences. All right, you don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. What do we agree on? And then once we find out what that is, then let's work on that and build from that point on. So this is to say that I'm profoundly honored to have my name on this law. But more importantly, I'm very glad that Rhode Island is joining the vast majority of states that recognize that guns absolutely do not belong in our schools. Our children and teachers will be safer and will feel more secure in schools because of this law, and I'm proud to have played a small part in getting it on the books in Rhode Island. So thank you for this recognition, and God bless you all. Keep up the good work.
Next, I would like to introduce Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I have to say that every year when my birthday rolls around, I think of different ways to celebrate. This is a great celebration. Thank you so much, Governor McKee, for having this amazing signing of common sense gun control legislation on what happens to coincide with my birthday, because it sets the tone for the rest of the day. And I want to thank, of course, you know, everybody who was involved. And I'm not going to say that many more different things than has already been said, but in my mind, we are here today because of the power of people who care, lots of moms who care about changing the way our state works, making it a safer, better environment for our kids, for our families. And so I want to give a big shout out to all of the regular Rhode Islanders who came to the hearings, who have followed the legislation, who have testified, who have spoken to all of us, right? So that we could say that we had the power of people behind us. The times are changing, and we need to be able to reflect that in our legislation and in the government that we have. And so, big round of applause to all of the people who are civically engaged in making this legislation happen today. You know, gun violence is a real scourge on our country in this day and age. And I am proud to be part of this amazing group of leaders in Rhode Island that has taken that brave step forward all the way from people like Senator Metz, who's been there when there weren't that many people in the room, right, when you started on this path, to now all of our great colleagues in the House and the Senate. Thank you so much. We have a little bit ways to go, but that's okay. We'll all be back next year and keep going, right? Right? But today is one day of celebration. And again, thank you, Governor McKee, for organizing this moment, because without celebratory moments, it's a hard slog. And in particular, credit to Attorney General Noronha, who I know from the minute you came into that office has really stepped forward and said, we need to do things differently in the Attorney General's office. And kudos to you for your leadership as well as for State Treasurer Magaziner. And Lieutenant Governor Matos, who has, from before you were Lieutenant Governor, definitely been involved. So with that being said, I'll pass it on to now Attorney General Peter Noronha.
Thank you, Secretary, and happy birthday to you. I think the last time I was here was the governor's birthday, so I'm not sure who's next. It's great to be with all of you and our legislative leaders. You know, this truly was, from the time these bills were conceived again this year, from all 5 constitutional officers stamping them, to such widespread support in the House and Senate, from the Senate President and the Speaker, the leaders, and throughout the ranks of both houses. It really is a day where government has come together, pushed forward, back, prodded by advocates that are here today, and so grateful for your voices. You know, when I think of gun violence, you know, it is something that my office sees, as I've said before, really on a day-to-day basis. We were at a murder scene last night. Colonel Chief Steve Danbrook texted me last night and went to a homicide scene. It is a slow and steady drip of violence that repeats itself over and over and over again. It is such a slow and steady drip of violence that when significant cases are made by the office and the Providence Police Department, the media and the public barely notices. On Friday, we announced the seizure of 1,500 fentanyl pills, a ghost gun, and a high-capacity magazine loaded with 23 rounds, a 30-round magazine, 23 rounds in it. It barely hit the public's consciousness. It is a slow and steady drip of violence. And it is only through steps like this that we can begin to address that violence. Why does it matter? Why do straw purchases matter? Why does it matter that my office and law enforcement know when there are multiple gun sales? It's because then we can follow up and track down the person who bought 89 guns for people who can't legally possess them before they're out on the street, before they're involved in homicides, before they're in the hands of a fentanyl dealer with 1,500 fentanyl pills and $10,000 in cash. That's serious narcotics trafficking. Guns and drugs go together. We've known that as prosecutors for as long as I've been one, and that's a very long time. So the work continues, but today is a great day. These are great steps forward that will keep Rhode Islanders safer, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And so with that, let me introduce the General Treasurer, Seth Magaziner. Treasurer?
Well, good morning, everyone. I stand here today not just as the state treasurer, but as a former public school teacher. And as a former teacher, I know the dread that teachers and parents feel every time the news comes on the TV that there has been another mass shooting. And every time we have those feelings, hoping that it's not our school in our neighborhood today. And so as a former teacher, I know that guns have no place in schools, and I know that we need to take every measure to ensure that those who should not have guns, violent criminals, people who are mentally ill, are not able to get them through loopholes like the ones that we're closing today with the straw purchase bill. This is important legislation that will save lives. I want to thank everyone who is involved in making this day possible, the governor for signing these bills, my fellow general officers for their steadfast support, the legislative sponsors and leaders who are here today who fought tooth and nail to get these bills passed, because it's not easy. But most of all, especially the advocates and the survivors. If you want to see real courage, if you want to see real bravery, watch these hearings where victims of gun violence and their family members have had to show up year after year, reliving the worst days in their lives, sharing their stories, begging for their elected officials to listen, so that hopefully it will be less likely that the same violence, the same trauma will not happen to someone else. That is true bravery, and I want to thank the survivors and the advocates for all of your commitment, coming back year after year after year. I know it's hard, but it does pay off. And it is a team effort. Last year, when we announced in our office that the state of Rhode Island will no longer invest state dollars in companies that manufacture assault weapons for civilian use, we got a lot of feedback, and it wasn't all positive, but it was the right thing to do because it is in keeping with our morality as a state and our commitment to keeping people safe. This is only the first step. Because of the commitment of the advocates and the survivors who have the courage to come back year after year, we have to keep going. We have to keep going. That means that we need to join our neighboring states in banning assault weapon sales in Rhode Island. We need to join our neighboring states in banning high-capacity magazines. And we need to invest in education and counseling and economic development to get at the root causes of violence so that one day we can be a safe state for everyone. And so in that spirit of hope, I want to thank everyone for this milestone today. It is important to celebrate the victories, and these are big victories today. They would not be possible without great leaders in the General Assembly who push year after year after year to pass common sense gun legislation. The next great leader who I would like to introduce, who has been on this for a long time, is a friend. I'm proud to call him a colleague, Senator Josh Miller. Senator.
So I have been at this for a long time. I was elected in 2007, and me and Harold Metz and sometimes Senator Perry or Chuck Levesque were sharing a group of what we thought was common sense gun legislation, and it would be hard for me to imagine that I would be here today with the amount of legislation I've been involved in around sensible gun legislation, that I would be here with my Senate President at a bill signing with two significant pieces of legislation that'll lead us that way. That would have not been possible without the people sitting on this side, our statewide, who stamped and supported this legislation. And that's unique and something that we fought for and didn't always have as I look to the past. So it is very important. And I don't think they would have been there without everybody else who's in this room. The governor went through a lot of them, but personally to me, I have to reach out to the Rhode Island Coalition for Gun Violence, thank them. The Institute for Nonviolence, I see Cedric here, going back to Tenny Gross and Sister Ann Keefe, who required that I be involved in this, even though I was already involved in it, but that's the passion they had around it. Every town, Giffords, Moms Demand Action. But as I was saying, it's been many years and we haven't had what we have now, and this is what we have to use to carry us forward. We haven't had the full support of all our statewides. We haven't had the full support of a majority of reps and senators. And without Senator Metz, the president, and our chair of judiciary, Senator Coyne, working so hard to have these bills heard, we wouldn't be here today. And so this momentum, I hope, carries us forward to the legislation we still don't have here today, and I hope we do have here in the future. That we should lead not by reaction to crisis, but by common sense gun safety policy that has gained the support of the majority of Rhode Islanders and a majority of their state reps and senators, and like I said, all of our stakeholders. So I hope we move forward with the legislation we don't have. This is momentum, and I hope this momentum goes to other important gun safety legislation. Thank you all. Oh, okay. And I want to introduce an incredible partner that I have in the House on these issues and a lot more, Representative Jason Knight.
Good morning, everybody. It's all really been said, the things you can say, but I want to bring a couple things that maybe haven't been highlighted enough yet. We have all the statewides on this side. We have the leadership of the House and Senate on this side, and I know Speaker Shikarchi couldn't be here today, but he's supportive of these bills. It's important to remember that in the House of Representatives, we often think about the Speaker, they literally speak for the House, but it's 75 elected representatives from around the state, and by and large, the vast majority of them support these issues. That's why these bills are here today. We see some of them here today. There's Representative Marcia Ranglin-Bassel. There's Representative Potter. Who else is here? There's Representative Amori. There's Majority Leader Christopher Blazewski. And on my bill, on the straw purchaser bill, which was just one of many reasonable, common sense proposals this year to get at gun violence, we had Representative Caldwell, Chairman Craven, Representative Speakman, Representative Carson, and Chairwoman Williams, in addition to some of the people that I mentioned here today. In fact, all the people I mentioned here today. There's tremendous support. There's tremendous support among our statewides. There's tremendous support among the advocacy community. And 3 out of 4 Rhode Islanders, 3 out of 4, support all the gun legislation proposals that were put in this year, including an assault weapons ban, including a ban on high-capacity magazines. This is an issue that unites Rhode Islanders in a way that many others don't. I echo the comments of the Attorney General about the need for the straw purchasing bill on the ground. He has seen it in his cases. I've certainly seen it in mine. When somebody goes into a gun store and buys 24 pistols for resale on the streets to prohibited persons, that is a giant pipeline of guns into a community that regularly engages in criminal conduct. Those prohibited people, felons, people who want those guns but can't get them through legal means. There's this band of people out there who are willing to purchase legally and then turn around and sell them on, in a black market sort of way. And we're getting at that with a common sense, clear and easily understood bill that's going to go on the books and make those cases easier to prosecute. I'll leave you with this. Gun violence, we talk about it so much, it's the kind of thing that if I always play this, I used to play this game with my kids when they were young. If you pick a word and just say it over and over and over, eventually you kind of forget what, you forget what it means, or it becomes hard to say. It's like it's a tongue twister. And I think gun violence is, and the conversations around that start to take on the same feel. We talk about it so much. It's such a topic in our community conversations. It's a source of controversy. There's legislative battles back and forth. Every time there's some horrible incident out there, the conversation is reignited. And I think for a lot of people, it can become kind of background noise. It's just more political stuff. But it's not. In 1994, my wife, my then serious girlfriend, now my wife, was at Planned Parenthood in Brookline, Massachusetts, when John Salvi came in with a .22 semi-automatic rifle and big magazines and started shooting. Killed one of her coworkers, injured so many people who were there in that building, and then went on down the street to preterm, and then escaped. And there was a huge manhunt. And I remember, I think he was caught in Virginia. The wounds inflicted that day, people still feel them 20-some-odd years later. They are life-changing. Gun violence is a meat grinder that affects Americans every single day. It affects Rhode Islanders every single day, and it is our responsibility to get after it. We're doing so with 2 good bills today. There's more good bills that we can use down the road, and I hope that we pass them next year. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to somebody who I greatly admire and respect. A pleasure to serve with, and I'm so proud to call her my whip, House Majority Whip Katie Kazarian.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming today. I have to say that I am so excited to be standing here today for the bill signing of the Harold Metz School Safety Act. It's been a long haul. This is something that the parents, the teachers, the staff, our students, they've been asking for a very long time, and I am so happy that we are delivering for them today. There is a reason that we don't allow guns into the convention center, into the State House, into many of our offices, post offices, theaters, so many places. And I am so glad that we are adding schools to that category today. So thank you, everybody. I do also want to thank many of my colleagues in the House that are here today. I want to thank Representative Greg Amore, Rep. Marcia Ranglin-Vassell, Rep. Brandon Potter, Carol McEntee, of course, my good friend Rep. Knight, helping us get these bills through. I also would like to thank the advocates who have done an incredible job. You have changed the conversation about gun safety. You have helped make these bills possible, and I just want to thank all of you. To my co-sponsor in the Senate, Senate President Dominic Ruggiero, I couldn't have asked for a better co-sponsor. To Harold Metz, the work that you've done on this issue, you've made it possible for us, again, to get to this point today. I do want to thank you so much. And last, but of course not least, I have to thank our House Speaker, Joseph Strukacci, and our House Leader, Christopher Blazajewski. Without their votes in the House Judiciary Committee, we would not be here today. We would not have had a chance to vote for it on the floor. Thanks. And we wouldn't be here today for the signing. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your work, and we'll keep going. Thank you.